What's up, guys? This is a small break from my usual type of content, but with the Trae Young trade finally happening, this is a massive positive shift that's happening in the NBA, and the new CBA has good and bad, and this is a perfect example of the good, and I really wanted to highlight it. As 90% of you that are NBA fans of teams other than the Lakers, Celtics, Warriors, and a few other teams with good owners, many of your teams are from smaller market cities where it's not known as a free agency destination. One of the main points of the new CBA was to increase parity. The problem in the past has been the ability for several teams to draft poorly, develop poorly, make bad free agent signings, and still outperform teams like OKC, who do all those things well simply for the fact that when their good players like James Harden were up for extensions, OKC couldn't afford it, but a bigger market team like Houston could. Or like when Kawhi was a free agent in Toronto, they couldn't offer $30 million no-show endorsement backdoor sweeteners like the Clippers could. What the new CBA has done for max contracts, or advise their players to chase championships with a big market team like they have been doing, but have to take a massive pay cut which reduces the pay coming also to the agent when the contract is signed. In my video where I previewed the NBA season, I begged the Hawks to trade Trae Young. What essentially happened to the Hawks and to almost every mid to small market team was they developed a very good player, the player has deficiencies that hold the team back from winning a title, the player has early team success, they think they'll go back every year, it goes to their head and improvement stops. The team, however, knows the fan base will crucify them for not re-signing the player, but the player will only stay if the team gives them the max contract. Then the team is stuck in a 6 to 10 seed purgatory until the next contract runs out. Trae Young's camp was furious with the Hawks for not offering an extension before this season, but the Hawks already frustrated themselves by paying $40 million this year and potentially $49 million the next on a player option, did the right thing and stood firm. However, Trae Young and his agents finally lost all leverage this season with his injuries, below standard play, and the quote-unquote supporting cast, which I've made the case was actually supporting him, having a 15-12 record without Trae this year as opposed to 2-8 with him. Now, if you're a massive Trae Young fan that clicked on this video in shock of how such an elite player got traded for no first or second round draft picks when Desmond Bane and Rudy Gobert went for 4, I'm sorry to tell you, the version of Trae Young we've seen the last 2 years is worth exactly what the Wizards gave up for him. Yes, in my opinion, Desmond Bane and Rudy Gobert are both better players than Trae Young is right now. Now, can you make the playoffs with prime Trae Young if you surround him with an elite roller and great shooters and defense? Yes, you can even make the conference finals if you convince the team you're playing to give someone like Ben Simmons also an albatross contract. But here's the reason I made this video and the reasons both sides should like this trade. Same as Mavs fans should now be okay with the Luka trade. Guys, you can have the most elite statistical player in league history, but in the new CBA, if they're not a dedicated leader, hard worker, and all-around player, you will not win a championship. And if you're not trying to win championships, what are we really doing? When a team drafts a lottery player, they're not just evaluating talent, they're evaluating the singular drive to improve weaknesses every year until they start to win. Trae Young, Luka, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, all these guys have the same thing in common. Whether it's defense, shooting, or injury prevention, they've had a 5 to 7 year run of first contracts and then extensions to show they acknowledge their weaknesses that prevented winning and they fixed them. But they simply haven't. And for that, outside of Joel Embiid, the GMs have all given up on these players and moved them and done the right thing. Even if any of those players get motivated and fix it in the future, the change of scenery is needed, and waiting around for the status quo to change with no evidence of that to this point is the definition of insanity. Now, does that mean Trae Young is a scrub or wasn't a great player for Atlanta? No, he absolutely was a great player for them for many years. But there's only room for so many max players on a roster, and he wasn't validating 40 to 50 mil. Just like Luka got motivated in the offseason to go get in shape after hearing the criticism on his way out the door in Dallas, Trae Young could wake up, hit the weight room like Steph Curry did, and go become a serviceable defender. I'm a big fan of Alex Sarr's improvement so far this year with the Wizards, and if Trae works hard and gets an extension there, the Wizards could become a playoff team in 2 years. But please guys, as fans, stop buying into statistical narratives about players and root for players that are actually leading, changing culture, improving weaknesses every year like Halliburton and Cade Cunningham have done. Trae Young was great, but defense is half the game, and scoring 30 and giving up 28 as a max player just isn't good enough. And if you're a pissed Hawks fan who wanted a return on a first round draft pick, Remember, the Hawks only had 2 teams to choose from who could even afford to take on $40 million, and that was the Wizards and the Nets. Even the Wizards had to dump 2 salaries to afford him. They had 0 leverage, and in fact, early reports were the Wizards were asking for a second-round pick to even absorb the contract. Also, don't forget your GM pulled a genius trade, betting that the Pelicans would have another terrible year, fleecing them for their first-round draft pick next year. Now, with CJ McCollum's contract coming off the books for the Hawks next year, they will be set to find their next superstar with the top 5 Pelicans pick to pair with their elite young core and Jalen Johnson. The Wizards will now get 1 year to see how Trae Young's elite passing helps their young core develop. And then if he still doesn't get in the weight room and work on his defense, they can try to trade him or let him walk after 2027 if he opts in. Really, this is a win-win for both teams. Guys, I swear I had this video mostly filmed while doing my research, and I come across this Reggie Miller interview with the legend Dan Patrick that came out with this clip pretty much perfectly summarizing Trae Young.
Trae Young used to be a big deal with the Hawks. That was a good story. It was a few years ago. He's celebrating against the Knicks in the Garden. He's playing in the Eastern Conference Finals. His numbers look really good. He's in his prime, and he's on the trading block. What happened with this story?
Here's the problem. And sometimes it's getting success too early. You mentioned it. I think his decline really started after the Hawks went to the conference finals and lost to the Milwaukee Bucks, the eventual champions. And I think things came too easy for him. And again, I'm not in their practices. I don't follow them day to day, but I hear things. And when you hear things that players don't like playing with him, he doesn't practice hard. He doesn't come early and work out. He certainly doesn't stay late and work on his game. When I hear comments like that, I hope they're not true, because I think he is an unbelievable talent and he can help a team out. The problem is he's small. He's not going to grow. He's not very big. He's slight. So he gets taken advantage of at the defensive end. And if you're not going to work on your game, if you're not going to bulk up, look at Stephen Curry. I mean, they were almost the same size at one point. And you look at Curry now, how much he has bulked up, continues to work on his shot like it's going out of business. I don't know if Trae works like that. I don't know if he's committed to working like that. So if you're the Hawks, you have a decision to make. What can you get in return for him? And the longer they wait, those kind of returns start to go down. It's like the stock market. So, but I know we've seen him on display in New York. We know he's a ice Trae. We know what he can deliver. Is what can you get for him? And going forward, how is Trae going to act wherever he goes?
Now guys, OG players like Reggie Miller, I honestly can't think of a single time I've ever heard him criticize an NBA player like this. They just don't do it. They try to mentor behind the scenes if they hear stuff like this, or they just keep it in-house in the NBA fraternity. For him to come out publicly and acknowledge this is what he's been hearing for years, and it perfectly matches what those of us who are really watching the game see. That's pretty crazy for him to do this, and it says to me it's gotten to the point where he's heard it so often he just doesn't care anymore. Now I just want to cover one last thing quickly. I noticed a lot of comments on the video are saying Trae Young was a scapegoat for an incompetent Atlanta Hawks front office. Or, put some respect on Trae Young's name, the man's an all-star and took a team to the Eastern Conference Finals. Guys, absolutely those things are true, but you're missing Reggie's point. Trae Young had a great team around him, and when he was hot from 3, he had several dominant games in that playoff run. But he hasn't really improved at all since then, and in some ways has regressed. Everyone acknowledges that he is objectively a great player, and he kept a mediocre team and front office afloat for several years. But the front office has tried to get free agents to come there, but nobody wanted to play with him because of his reputation. In the last 2 years, he's had a good enough supporting cast to be a top 6 seed in a weak Eastern Conference, and they've had a better record without him this year. If he was making 2020 an expiring contract, a role player, and no draft picks. Thank you guys for watching, and before bashing me in the comments for being a Trae Young hater, remember, defense is half the game. Y'all are all legends, good luck to the new look Hawks, and have a great week, y'all. If you can support by signing up as a member, liking, commenting, or hyping the video, that'd be a great help. Thank you guys, peace.